The wind in Siberia carries more than cold. It carries silence, an ancient silence that feels older than language itself. Beneath its veil of snow and ice, it hides stories that no empire has written, myths too stubborn to die, and secrets too heavy for scholars to shoulder. I have walked those white horizons, boots sinking into frost that cracked like the bones of forgotten cities. And I will tell you, not with certainty, for certainty is the arrogance of youth, but with the half-broken voice of memory, that something waits there still, something older than the map of the world. When I first came to Siberia, I was already half a ruin myself. The universities had closed their doors to me, whispering that Elias Thorn was no more than a dreamer, a man chasing after fairy tales when science demanded proof. They called me unfit for serious work. But it was not proofs I sought, it was voices. The voices of the earth, the voices of civilizations who had burned and been buried long before ours. And so, when the letters arrived from a woman named Maren Solace, carrying stories passed down through her family of a city beneath the permafrost, I listened. Her words were humble, almost apologetic, yet they stirred something I thought I had buried: belief. She wrote of stone walls found where no human settlement should be, of strange carvings her grandfather had unearthed in frozen soil, of whispers that a people once thrived in Siberia before time itself forgot their name. I carried her letter in my coat when I left the railway station, the smoke of the last train curling behind me like a severed tether to the modern world. The locals looked at me with suspicion, muttering among themselves as I hired an old guide named Jonas Vey. He was a quiet man, face leathered by years of storms, eyes like two coals that had burned low but would never die. Men go into the taiga with dreams, he told me, and most do not come out. Are you certain you want to follow her story? But certainty was not what drove me. It was exile and longing, and so I nodded. We walked for weeks. The land stretched into an ocean of white, endless and indifferent. At night, the auroras shimmered like torn curtains of green and violet across the heavens, making even Jonas whisper in awe. Maren joined us later, bringing with her not courage but persistence. She carried a small notebook filled with her family's tales, handed down like heirlooms of breath. At the fire, she read them aloud. Her voice trembled, but there was a kind of faith in it. Faith that words mattered, that even those dismissed as children's stories might lead us somewhere. I remember one passage she read. Beneath the ice sleeps a hall of mirrors. Those who enter see not their faces, but the faces of those who came before. And if they linger too long, they forget which face is theirs. Jonas chuckled uneasily, spitting into the fire. Stories, he muttered. Yet when he thought we slept, I saw him draw talismans in the dirt. Small circles meant to ward off whatever might listen. Days bled into nights. Hunger gnawed at us. The world grew strange. We found stones etched with spirals in the snowdrifts, half-buried pillars that no weather could explain. Once, while foraging for firewood, Maren called to me with a cry of alarm. I hurried and saw her kneeling before a shard of wall rising out of the earth, a wall smooth as glass, yet etched with glyphs unlike any I had ever seen. They seemed to move when you looked too long, as if shifting between languages no one alive remembered. My heart thundered in my chest. Here, at last, was the rejection of rejection. Here was proof. Yet I knew better than to shout it. Proof too often turns to ash when lifted into the light of doubters. Instead, I pressed my palm to the stone. It was warmer than the air around it, as though it remembered fire. We dug. For hours, for days, we clawed at the earth like mad creatures, uncovering more fragments. A stair that led into the ground. A broken column crowned with carvings of animals I could not name. Jonas grew restless. This is wrong, he said. Things that hide in the earth do so for a reason. But we pressed on. Down the stair we went, torches flickering, shadows trembling along walls that seemed to pulse with unseen veins. The air grew warmer, heavy with a musk like damp stone and long-forgotten incense. My heart beat as though it had recognized a rhythm older than flesh. And then we found the chamber. A vast room carved in circles, walls covered in mirrors black as obsidian. They reflected not us, but figures dressed in furs, faces painted with ash and ochre, eyes burning with knowledge of the stars. They moved when we did not. They whispered though no lips stirred. And in the center of the chamber lay a great stone table, upon which rested a scroll bound in bronze. Maren gasped, her notebook falling to the floor. Jonas cursed and backed away, trembling like a child. But I stepped forward, my hand shaking as I reached for the scroll. Bronze flaked beneath my touch, ancient yet stubborn. When I unrolled it, I expected words. But what I found were maps. Maps of constellations, maps of rivers long shifted, maps of lands beneath oceans that no sailor had charted. "This is impossible," I whispered. Yet impossibility felt thin in that place, like a curtain ready to tear. The mirrors around us shimmered. For a moment, I saw not myself, but another figure, gaunt, weary, eyes haunted. Elias Thorn, perhaps, but not as I was, as I might be, as I had been. The past folding into the present bleeding into myth. Jonas fled. His footsteps echoed, swallowed by the earth. Maren, though pale and trembling, stood beside me. "Do you see it?" she asked. "Do you feel it?" I nodded, though my throat ached. What I felt was not knowledge, but belonging. Belonging not to the universities that scorned me, not to the world of lectures and ink, but to this endless chain of seekers stretching back into shadow. The chamber shook. The scrolls seemed to pulse with life, and the voices in the mirrors grew louder, speaking in tongues I almost understood. It was not warning, nor threat, it was invitation. We left before the earth closed again. Jonas was gone. We never found him. Some nights I wonder if he still walks the taiga, unable to leave that place behind. Maren and I carried nothing but memory, for to carry the scroll would have been theft. And yet, the memory was weight enough. Back among people, we spoke little. To tell the truth would be to invite ridicule. To remain silent was to guard the dignity of what we had seen. Now, as I sit by a dwindling fire, I speak to you, wanderer, not to persuade but to share. Siberia holds her secrets not because they are false, but because truth itself must be clothed in mystery, lest it blind us. Remember this. Rejection is the price of listening to whispers others refuse to hear. Isolation is the crucible of discovery. And sometimes, the greatest gift is not proof but wonder, the kind that keeps your eyes lifted to the auroras, your ears tuned to the silence between heartbeats. So if ever you find yourself on the edge of the taiga, where the wind moans like an old soul, and the snow hides more than bones, step lightly. Listen. You may not find riches, or fame, or answers, but you may find belonging in the company of the forgotten and the mysteries that still breathe beneath the ice. And if you do, remember Elias Thorn, who once was called a fool. For in Siberia, the strangest unsolved mystery is not what lies beneath the earth. It is that we are still listening,